in Ohio rodeo. If you've not ever gone to such a thing, it's in Summit County, I think, or no, it's in Lodi. You got to check it out. It was a weird way to spend an evening.
Awesome. Well, we are excited, guys. This is Thursday, July 28th. I had to look at the time. I had to look at it because I couldn't do it. July 28th. It is Thursday. It is office hours. We're excited about this week because one of the biggest requests we got was around Power Apps. And so we have a little Power Apps showcase for you. Before we launch into that, I'm Heather Cox. With me today are my beautiful co-hosts.
Hey everybody, Stephanie Stevens coming in the nick of time.
I'm Andrea Singrio, and do you want me to take it from here, Heather?
Yeah, it's all you. I'm going to turn my stuff off. Go.
Perfect. Well, I was super grateful to the 4 folks that volunteered to share with us today because you guys said you wanted to hear from each other. So that's what we worked on. So today is a quick Power App showcase. We've got 4 customers that are going to share their solutions. And then Craig Hogan from my team, he is the CSM over Biz Apps, is going to round us out with some more support and solutions and where to find resources to get started. So I have 2 slides. Hey, this is the Power App Showcase. And just so our guests know, this is the order we'll go in for presenting. Sherman, you're welcome to go first, followed by Joe, Rob, and Jolie. I have that presentation. So I'm going to turn off my camera and hand it off to Sherman.
I'm just going to go ahead and share this window. So we have a London center over in London, England, and they were relying on a server that was failing. We needed to stand up a solution pretty quick so that they could scan in documents and put them in SharePoint. They were using a file server that was failing. So we decided to, and I think this was maybe the first or second week that I was at Ithaca College. So we created a Power Automate solution for it. And all it really does is that they have the scanner, or it's like a multi-function device. It was a dumb device. It really didn't do anything special, but it could email. And so that was all we needed. So we created a department account called Blackbaud-scan, or it could be that person's username with -scan appended to it. They would scan to this particular email account, and then that's all that would be needed. It would create a PDF automatically. And so what we did here was we added, a listener that says for every message that comes into this inbox to, whatever account that is being used here, we would pull out that attachment, and then we would use a SharePoint create file action. So we would create it in their particular SharePoint site. And it was great because a lot of these are already in Microsoft Teams, so it was very easy to pick up. And then we, located the folder path that it needed to go to. We created the file name based on the subject of that email, attached PDF, attached the file content, and then so it would be in their respective SharePoint site or team site. And then the last step is we would delete that email. We've gotten some other requests from other departments. Can this, I would say, dumb solution, because it really doesn't do anything other than take an attached file and move it someplace else. Can it do something more? And so the other day I got pinged about the AI builder in Power Automate, which I didn't know existed. I'm not in Power Automate all that much. And so we have areas on campus that scan in handwritten documents that, can't be easily read by an OCR reader, or, something that can't be easily read by an OCR reader. And so we've been testing out how can we potentially make this dumb workflow a little bit smarter and maybe pick out keywords so that they can use to make decision points on. And so for this one organization on campus, they receive in gifts you know, it could be like monetary amounts of $500, $1,000, $2,000 or more, and they need to categorize these gifts and put these scanned documents into different folders. And so right now they're relying on student workers and employees to look at each one of these scanned items and make a determination about where this file needs to go. And so I've just now started working on this, but it'd be great to be able to pull out a dollar amount. And it doesn't necessarily need to move the file into that folder, but it'd be great if you could give them a trigger or some sort of notice that, hey, they got a gift in for the amount of $500 that got scanned in. What do you want to do with it? And so this is really great to explore. I accidentally started our trial license, so I have 30 days to work on it and do a proof of concept. But you know, this has been a great solution for all of us. We've replicated this on so many different occasions. We're currently moving from you know, another content repository to SharePoint, and we're really using this you know, across many of our divisions because it's easy to deploy. It's, you know, 100% reliable, and email is really one of our most secure systems. So when people talk about, you know, is this really secure for transmitting sensitive information, it really is. And then, you know, right off the bat, it deletes that email. It's good to go. So we've been pretty pleased with it.
That is awesome. Thank you so much, Sherman, for sharing with us. We greatly appreciate hearing that. I love seeing the way different flows, and I had no idea that we could have it pull data off of a picture. That's really cool. So I now want to look into that, and we'll probably ping you later for more questions that I have around that. Who was next? Joe, you good to go next?
Yep, I'm all set. Hi all, my name is Joe Lazaro. I'm a full stack application developer with the University of Houston. So yes, UH is just taking over the meeting. Even though I'm a full stack developer, I work in Power Apps a lot because when I built the app I'm going to show you, I was director of IT, and I knew that my eventual replacement was probably not going to know PHP and JavaScript and SQL. So I wanted to build them a tool that they wouldn't have to worry about hosting a server or knowing how to really code. So we started building what we call the Mac app, the McGovern Arts Connect, which is sort of a central point of connection for us and our students. And we use it for a lot of things like locker assignments and key requests and room reservations, and for signing contracts and academic agreements. But the place where it's really made the biggest impact has been in student recital scheduling. This used to be a series of paper forms or Word docs that were passed around between faculty and students and administrators, and scheduling a recital usually took 2 to 3 weeks. So we've built a tool that lets a student come in. I'm just in a test account here under the School of Music, that lets a student come in and create a recital request, add all their faculty members, and get it scheduled. And we've gotten the lead time from those the scheduling of the recitals from a couple of weeks to most people are done in about 15 minutes and scheduled for the semester. So that's been able to open up earlier and earlier. We didn't used to have recitals in the first 6 weeks of school, the first 4 weeks of school, because they couldn't schedule them fast enough. But now we're having recitals on the second week. So a student comes in and selects the kind of recital they're going to do. I am deficient with my recital contracts with the number of recitals I have to watch as a student. So I get a warning that I'm going to have to complete those before I'll be allowed to hold my recital. And the student just comes through here and sets up. Almost all of our recitals are in these 2 recital halls. They'll come through and choose a few options that help the recital coordinator figure out who needs to do what. And then we get to the date picker. And so the students can, let's check my birthday here. Students can see these 2 recital halls and choose from the available times. My birthday is completely blocked out. and they select 3 times that would work for them and their committee chair. And then they tell me who their committee chair is. It defaults to their applied instructor. And then they say who's going to be on their committee. And when I hit save here, this is going to send a Microsoft approval process to all these members, and they all have to approve the committee membership before it'll go into the final list. So we don't have any more cases like we used to of some faculty member saying, I never agreed to be on this committee and I don't have time to do it now. So that's really eliminated a ton of problems.
How are you?
Good.
What's going on?
We're hearing somebody else's call now. I'm not going to say this because I don't want these people to get those approval processes. But just really quickly to look at the other side of it, there are 3 sides of this. There's the student view, there's the recital coordinator view, and there's the faculty view. Faculty will get to see all the students they're a member of a committee for and assign them grades, leave them comments, and the student will be able to go through and see their history throughout their career at the school of all their recitals and grades. The recital coordinator sees this view. Incoming recitals that aren't scheduled yet are in this column. Recitals that have been scheduled but not performed yet are in the middle. And then recitals that have their recital date is passed and either they're pending final grade or the final grade is in. And so the recital coordinator, I'll just show the test student again because I don't want to show off actual student data. They see this sort of control panel of the status of this. They need to make sure that it's scheduled, that the recital credits have actually been met when we're counting down the days here. If there are monitors that need to be scheduled to be ushers for the recital, and what their recital committee is. I only have 1 committee member right now. My pre-recital jury hasn't been judged, so that's a problem. I'm probably going to get held up. And I haven't uploaded a program. So the recital coordinator will be able to follow up with the students based on what is happening here. And then I will just skip over the faculty part just because I know we're short on time. But that's really been the biggest impact of this app, and it's been such a hit that I keep getting requests to add more and more features to it, and so we're gonna roll this out to the School of Art with their MFA thesis committees, and it's going to handle all of their scheduling in a similar way. But
I am just blown away. Blown away, Joe. This is amazing. I want you to know that while I did read everybody's little blurb they sent me on that form, it doesn't do it justice to when you actually start seeing these flows and these apps. These are incredible. Rob, you ready?
Yes, I am. And I want to say first, I wish I had a cool shirt like that one. I really like that. All right, I will start quick. Let me share my screen. All right, so and I apologize, Andrea. I looked at your first slide and it says Power Apps, showing off Power Apps, and I saw Power and it didn't have BI, so I assumed it was Power Platform without looking closely. So this is in lieu of Power App, but a Forms with a Power Automate and a SharePoint list. So
yeah, no, I think I messed up on the first slide, so I apologize. We were looking for flows and apps and getting started.
I'm so glad.
You're totally good. You're totally good.
Good. So I work within the shared infrastructure part of our central IT at Washington University in St. Louis. We have about 800 IT people overall, and within that central IT, we have our enterprise apps folks, and a part of that is departmental apps, and then shared infrastructure. And I'm part of the shared infrastructure. I'm supposed to make sure that everything's running good, which Microsoft takes care of a large portion of that for Microsoft 365. So had somebody from the enterprise apps come to me with a customer that's in our facilities planning group. And like most universities, we're in the medical side of it, we're building new buildings. So they have a move-in process that they've tried different things and it's been hectic, and they want to try to have a really good move-in process for a very large building. One of the largest projects I think our university has done for the neuroscience research building. It's going to be going up next year in April of 23. And so, you know, they had some basic goals. They did want it to be sustainable. We try to always be green. Most of our buildings are LEED certified and need to be intuitive. Need to have a good, reliable, real-time data. They've had problems with that, and of course have some reporting with it. And they want to be able to have a lessons learned possibility after they're done with it to try to continue to improve that process. So they had handwritten notes. Sometimes they scanned them. They came out with paper forms like this. It typically was managed through Excel, and they would email and phone all these different departments. We outsource most of our large building to external contractors. We also have a hospital partner that is part of that coordination as well. The reason I was hearing from the enterprise apps groups is the first thought was if we need a enterprise-wide ticketing system, we already have one. We have ServiceNow. It's used by our IT and used by our HR departments. And they said that based on the process they wanted, it required customization. And so this is just a screenshot I pulled from the presentation that the person that was presenting this to herb management within facilities. They wanted to have a really easy form people could fill out, a QR code, you know, it's sitting out there in the rooms or the hallways. So the approach would be that we would create a pilot, and because the application folks said we don't really have a solution for them unless we do something custom right now. And so I said, well, let's try something citizen developer. The person that we were working with had multiple degrees. I mean, she was working in facilities, but she had a comp sci degree. She had a master's in informatics. So she was a very smart person. I said, well, let's just try forms and SharePoint list to manage stuff. And so we talked about it, and we went through a process about 2 months where she and I were just talking through it. I'd go try something. I'd show her how to do it, but then it was her forms, her list, her flow, and it was working really well. Unfortunately, well, and I told her, you really need to test all of your different cases that you're putting out. She had a switch statement, and she wanted some actions to happen based on the issue type. And I said, you really need to test every one of these. She said, I see what you're saying, but I don't really have the time. So she took the departmental applications group, and we went through the same process. They didn't have experience with this, and they didn't want to hand it off to consultants. So I went through that same process with them. So what we came up with, and the goal is we all decided that really need to do this with some prior move-ins. And then later, once we have this process developed, then that facilities person could go back and tweak it for different move-ins. So when we looked at, even before I decided whether Power Apps or Forms or what the solutions was, obviously some of those requirements made a huge difference, and they wanted people to not to have to authenticate. And so based on my knowledge, Forms was the best option. That kind of took a lot of other stuff off the table. And I knew that they could manage within lists. So I said, let's just create a team. And through the requirements, we ended up coming down to this. They have their forms, somebody submits it. Of course, it goes into the Excel spreadsheet within the team. They have this flow that goes over here. It assigns, I think we added assigned tos based off of the issue type. And that incident command team can just go look for those issues, have alerts, things of that nature, and chat about them. So they liked that idea. And so we started developing it. And what we came up with was the SharePoint list is here, and it's all the basic stuff that you would think if I'm turning an issue that I'm going to have problems with. And I think the key pieces were around issue type. We set assigned to based on issue type, and that allowed us to be able to send an email to them, set up alerts, have the view based on my issues, and there was one other thing that we did with the flow. But this is the end result with, once it's here, they can manage it. We have showed them the ability to go from the SharePoint list to the PowerPoint dashboard. And I haven't a report that comes up, and I haven't tweaked that very much. So I'm not real sure how far they took that. It did a pretty good job of trying to come up with the key indicators, the key graphs with the different slicers based off of what it thought was important. But the most time I spent was, let's come up with an easy form. And so let me show you, that wasn't this. Let me show you that. So it's basic form, bunch of choices. And the key thing that we determined was whatever your options are here and your questions, you had to make sure that that exact text is what you put into the SharePoint list choice options, right? So you try to match up the different types, forms type, question type, and SharePoint column type, and and you also had to so you wanted everything exactly the same, and it got a little weird when you wanted to do things like, can they select multiple items? So you have to treat that separately. The dates were interesting, if I remember right, but anytime they wanted to do something, I had to go test it to make sure that I didn't have to do any apply to eaches and stuff like that. But generally, it works really good. I've looked around. I was a little concerned about there being hiccups in the process of it actually adding an item, and I've not, knock on wood, seen once. And this is still in the trial process. They're testing it within a move, and they just started, so I don't know even how many entries they have. But we've not had any problems where things don't show up or they show up differently. So
wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. So the one last thing I want to show you, it's really simple, is the flow ended up being really super easy. So if I look at this this one here, actually, I probably would have been better doing an edit. Bear with me just a second. I'll go do edit. Come on, edit. All right, that is interesting. Yeah. I knew that.
Happens when you're on camera.
I know. You lose, my IQ goes down at least 20. And I'm not starting with a lot, so that's a big percentage. So you can see here when a new response is submitted, so we just use that trigger. We had to get the details. We had a variable for the assign to, and we had a switch for the issue type, where we assigned the variable, set a variable for assign to. We ended up changing this, by the way, in a later version, and I'll show you what we did. So one thing that it is clear is that, as I was saying before, if you have something as a single select or a multi-select, makes a huge difference in how you approach it within Flow. So everything was good when we were at single select. You can see I have my switch statement here. It assigns that variable, and then it's a real simple case of using that variable when I create the item, right? So just have all the stuff. It flows through very nicely.
Unbelievable.
Yeah. But what happened was they said, you know what, we really need to be able to assign multiple people to this. And so I said, all right, I have to show you another flow. And it's, I was able to create, by the way, I wanted to isolate that as much as possible. So I took I created the Power Platform environment within that team. When the other group started working on this, they had trouble doing that. So we just went ahead and, created the flow within the default environment. And we had to look at the assign to a little bit differently in this process. And we went along, I know we went the long way about this, but under a switch, we have the issue types, and we actually updated the item. So we created the item before the switch statement, and we updated the item with the actual people, right? So this one only had one, but the next one, I just keep adding new item, and custom values and enter custom values for the additional person. Yeah,
this
because
is so amazing, and I hate to cut you off.
Oh yeah, sorry,
we're
I'm
at
done.
1:58, and I have so much chatter going on in the background of my computer because everybody is so blown away. We have one more example for you, and if Craig will come on camera for just a quick second. He's already agreed he's willing to come back next week if Heather, that's okay. So why don't we do this? Because I was worried when I got back after my vacation that we only had 3 examples, and then Rob volunteered as well. So we ended up with 4, and Craig was willing to talk, and I was like, oh my God, we're not going to fill a half an hour. And we blew this half an hour away. I feel like the 3 folks that talked could have talked the whole half hour. I wanted you to meet Craig. Craig is my teammate, and he's going to come back next week. We're going to hear from Kent School District. They actually sent me a slide deck with audio because they couldn't be here this week. So we'll see if she's able to make it next week. And then Craig, you want to tell them what you're going to cover? And then maybe if we've got some time, you can do that Q&A that we talked about.
Yeah, of course. So thank you for having me. A couple of caveats. I'm not doing any singing along, so Heather can own that piece. That is not me. But yeah, I think the session, the information is great. I have a deck that is full of resources that include information on both Dynamics and Power Platform with a series of links. So I will walk through that next week and kind of share as a starting point, realizing it can be very much overloading in terms of the amount of information. And then I can share some of the other use cases that I'm working with customers on, particularly in the higher ed space. There's a handful of other use cases similar to what you've seen here, and happy to walk through that. And then ultimately, what does all it mean and where do we go from there? So happy to help on that front too.
Absolutely.
Go ahead, I was just going to say, honestly, like that, all of that, like I put it in the chat and I mean it. We have the coolest freaking community. That it was incredible. That is what we wanted. We wanted you to share. We know you're doing amazing things. We wanted you to share those amazing things so that we can all learn from each other. Education, I will always say this, is the most collaborative group of people you will find anywhere you go. There are so many places that would never be willing to share the hard work they put into doing something, but all of you are doing it for the benefit of your faculty, staff, students. It's incredible. We could do these all year if you guys want to share things that you're doing. We told you at the beginning of the year we wanted more community stuff, and holy cow, did you blow us away. Craig, thank you in advance for coming back next week. Maybe, hopefully Kent can come back next week. That was incredible. And I'm sure that not only were they amazing to share, I'm sure that they will obviously have the recording, but I'm sure they'd be willing to follow up with some answers to questions that I bet folks had. So with that, I will stop the recording. As always, you're a lovely